What if I told you that deep within Mount Ararat, scientists have found something that shouldn't exist? A structure so advanced it defies explanation, containing technology thousands of years ahead of its time, and a warning meant for us. This isn't legend. This isn't myth. This is what they actually discovered, and it changes everything. For centuries, explorers have searched these mountains for a myth, a vessel said to have carried the last remnants of life through the end of the world. Most dismissed it as legend. But after decades of false leads and whispered discoveries, a team of researchers descended into a newly exposed cavern on Ararat's western face, and what they found inside would challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. But before we dive into this incredible discovery, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will make you question the entire timeline of human civilization. The first thing they saw wasn't wood or stone, but geometry. Perfect, deliberate geometry. Beams of a massive hull, each cut with surgical precision, forming a structure nearly 150 meters long. The exact dimensions recorded in the oldest flood texts. Yet the wood itself shouldn't exist. Carbon dated to over 4,800 years old, it was preserved so perfectly it still carried faint traces of pitch and resin. But its cellular structure was unlike any known tree species alive today, hinting at an origin that predates even the dawn of written history. As the team advanced deeper into the structure, they realized this was no primitive vessel, cobbled together by ancient hands. The walls were lined with thin metallic strands woven into the grain, a primitive form of conductivity. Embedded in the floor were intricate drainage channels and ventilation shafts cut with a level of precision that suggested not improvisation, but engineering. Along the interior panels, carved in a language older than Sumerian, they found instructions, not prayers or blessings, but warnings. They spoke of a great cleansing, a time when the skies would burn, and a command to preserve the breath of creation. One chamber transformed their understanding completely. Sealed behind a layer of hardened resin was a vault filled with clay jars, hundreds of them, each labeled in the same ancient script. Inside, seeds. Many matched known species from the ancient Fertile Crescent, but others did not. Genetic analysis confirmed that at least a dozen were from plants that have been extinct for over 4,000 years, species believed to have vanished before the first cities rose. This wasn't just a vessel. It was a biological archive, a genetic library preserved across millennia. Further inside, archaeologists uncovered something even more perplexing. Massive, polished stones with holes drilled clean through their centers. They were identical in form to the drogue stones used by ancient sailors to stabilize ships in violent seas. But these were buried inside the hull itself. It suggested the Ark had once endured unimaginable forces, perhaps not just floodwaters, but seismic events, even tidal waves on a planetary scale. In the lowest accessible level, in a chamber no wider than a small room, they found a human skeleton. The bones were unlike any recorded from the Bronze Age, taller, denser, with elongated limbs and a cranial capacity that suggested advanced cognitive development. Clutched in its hands was a carved symbol, the same tree of life motif found in Mesopotamian temples thousands of years later. Around its neck hung a pendant fashioned from meteoritic iron, centuries before humans were known to smelt it. Was this a builder, a keeper, or something else entirely? Every artifact pulled from the site raised more questions. In one compartment, scientists detected a resin coating with molecular properties nearly identical to modern polymer sealants, a technology not invented until the 19th century. In another, they found a series of tablets made of an unknown composite material etched with diagrams of celestial movements, including planetary alignments that wouldn't occur for thousands of years after the Ark was supposedly built. It was as if the builders weren't recording their own sky, but predicting ours. Microscopic analysis of the pitch sealant revealed nano-sized metallic particles, a method of preservation scientists only developed in the last century. It suggested a mastery of chemistry far beyond what was thought possible at the dawn of recorded history. Even more disturbing, radiometric anomalies in the wood indicated exposure to intense bursts of radiation, not from the sun, but from an artificial source, as though the structure had once endured something catastrophic or was prepared to. The inscriptions grew more cryptic the deeper they went. One panel spoke of a second cleansing, an event tied not to water, but to fire from the heavens. Another referenced a keeper, tasked with ensuring the vessel's contents would seed the earth anew when the cycle turned. And etched into the central support beam, in letters large enough to fill the chamber, was a message that changed everything. This is not the end. This is the beginning after the end. Beneath that inscription, a concealed staircase spiraled downward, a passage no one expected to exist. It led into a chamber that seemed to defy the era entirely. Walls of finely joined timber formed a perfect octagon, their surfaces inlaid with patterns that mirrored star constellations not visible from Earth's skies 5,000 years ago. Embedded in the floor was a circular stone disk etched with a repeating sequence of symbols identical to those carved on Sumerian ziggurats thousands of miles away, hinting that this was part of a much larger system of knowledge. At the center of that disk lay a sealed obsidian capsule, cool to the touch, perfectly airtight and far too precise to have been crafted with Bronze Age tools. When they finally opened it, under sterile lab conditions, they found fragments of parchment, impossibly preserved, written in an unknown script that has so far resisted every attempt at translation. But some markings were unmistakable. A repeating diagram of a spiral flood pattern surrounding a landmass that closely resembles the continents of Earth, not as they are today, but as they were before the last ice age. Whoever built this vessel had knowledge of planetary geography tens of thousands of years ahead of its time. In a nearby alcove, they uncovered a series of glass-like vials, so delicate that touching them without gloves caused immediate degradation. Inside each was a dark, viscous liquid. Initial spectroscopy revealed traces of ancient DNA. Not animal, not human, but something in between. The genetic structure bore markers of both Homo sapiens and an unidentified hominin lineage thought to have gone extinct long before the rise of civilization. The possibility that Noah's Ark was not just a refuge for animals, but a genetic vault for intelligent life sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The most puzzling discovery emerged from a section of the Ark previously believed to be structural support. Ground-penetrating radar revealed it was hollow, a concealed compartment containing dozens of stone tablets stacked neatly like books on a shelf. Their inscriptions described not just a flood, but a cycle, a recurring cosmic event triggered every 12,600 years by changes in Earth's magnetic field. According to the texts, this event resets civilization, erasing progress, shifting coastlines, and forcing humanity to begin anew. It was a warning, written not for the survivors of a single flood, but for future civilizations that might one day face the same fate. One tablet contained something far stranger than prophecy. It listed precise astronomical coordinates, forming a map that, when plotted, aligned with an uncharted region beneath the sands of eastern Anatolia. The expedition team dispatched a drone equipped with ground-penetrating sensors to survey the area, and the readings were extraordinary. Beneath 40 meters of rock lay a geometric anomaly, a rectangular void, nearly identical in dimensions to the chamber they had just explored. It was as if a second ark had been built, buried intentionally to safeguard whatever secrets the first could not. In one chamber, strange metallic rods ran vertically through the walls, arranged at precise mathematical intervals corresponding to the Fibonacci sequence. They weren't decorative, they were resonant. When exposed to sound frequencies, they vibrated at harmonics capable of amplifying seismic energy. This wasn't a primitive boat. It was an engineered structure, possibly designed to withstand or harness the destructive forces of the Earth itself. Hidden beneath a false floor near the stern was a tablet unlike any other, etched not with symbols or language, but with a single, repeating pictograph, a spiral, intersected by 3 vertical lines. It matched carvings found at Neolithic sites from Göbekli Tepe to the Andes, places that predate writing, agriculture, and even cities. The symbol's presence here suggested a chilling possibility, that the builders of this ark were part of an advanced, interconnected culture that existed before recorded history, a civilization erased by the very cataclysm the ark was built to survive. Then the ground beneath the excavation platform began to tremble, not from an earthquake, but from something hollow and vast beneath the surface. Engineers rushed in seismic scanners, and what they saw defied every geological model of the region. A cavernous void, perfectly rectangular, stretching deeper than the ark's known base. The ark was not resting on bedrock. It was anchored into something deliberately constructed beneath it. The first probes lowered through the opening revealed an impossible scene. Wooden chambers extending downward like a vertical labyrinth, preserved under layers of hardened pitch. Within these hidden rooms, researchers discovered objects unlike anything from the known Bronze Age. Intricate vessels lined with bitumen and gold dust, sealed containers filled with desiccated grains that still held viable DNA, and a series of etched symbols matching Sumerian flood tablets written centuries before Noah's era. This was no mere cargo hold. It was a library, a genetic and cultural archive prepared for a world reborn. At the very heart of the structure, buried beneath a tangle of ancient rope and petrified reeds, lay a slab of carved obsidian engraved with a celestial map, one that charted not the skies of the ancient Near East, but constellations only visible from Earth's southern hemisphere. The implication was chilling. Whoever prepared this vessel had knowledge of the wider world, far beyond what any known civilization possessed. When a sealed compartment on the ark's lower tier was finally breached, they found a row of stone containers, each labeled with inscriptions in a script so ancient it predates Proto-Sinaitic writing. Within them were hundreds of small clay cylinders, miniature tablets documenting the names of extinct animal species, many of which were unknown to modern science. Among the records were references to creatures described as the giants before the waters and the beasts that walked without master, hinting at a pre-flood biosphere radically different from the one we know today. DNA traces embedded in the containers matched no known living organism on Earth. While geneticists scrambled to decode the biological data, archaeologists turned their attention to the ark's inner hull. Beneath layers of resin and tar, they uncovered something that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Embedded into the structure itself were metallic rivets composed of an alloy unknown in any ancient context, an ultralight, corrosion-proof composite with atomic arrangements similar to aerospace materials engineered in the 20th century. How such a substance could exist in a vessel estimated to be over 4,800 years old remains one of the most confounding mysteries in archaeological history. Radiocarbon tests on the deepest wooden beams suggested something far stranger than anyone had predicted. Parts of the Ark predate the supposed timeline of the flood by nearly 2,000 years. This colossal structure wasn't built in response to a single catastrophic event. It was maintained, modified, and possibly reused across generations. Some experts now propose that the Ark may have been a relic from an even older civilization, retrofitted by Noah's people for a final, desperate mission. Then came the most haunting discovery yet, a chamber sealed so tightly it had resisted every attempt to open it. When they finally breached the vault, the air that escaped had been trapped for millennia. Inside lay a sarcophagus carved from a single block of cedar, inscribed with a prayer not in Hebrew or Akkadian, but in a language that has yet to be classified. Resting within, wrapped in linen carbon dated to the same era as the flood, was a human skeleton, unnervingly intact, its skull elongated, its bones unusually dense. It was buried not as cargo, but as something venerated or feared. As news of the find spread, governments quietly dispatched observers to the remote Turkish site. Satellite imagery revealed increased drone activity over the region, and soon portions of the excavation were placed under military control. Leaked internal documents hinted at the reason. The Ark's contents weren't just rewriting history, they were challenging the very foundations of human origin narratives. If the Ark's genetic archives, metallic alloys, and celestial maps were authentic, then this was not just a story of survival from a flood. It was evidence of a forgotten intelligence, guiding humanity long before recorded history began. New scans of the subterranean structure revealed something that turned every theory on its head. Beneath the lowest chamber, deeper than any excavation team had dared to go, was a perfectly symmetrical chamber carved directly into the bedrock, its walls inlaid with alternating bands of basalt and crystal quartz. The geometry was deliberate, a hexagonal core aligned to magnetic north, with channels that appeared to resonate at low frequencies when exposed to seismic vibrations. This was not storage. It was a machine, ancient, silent, but still pulsing faintly with energy. Instruments confirmed a measurable electromagnetic field emanating from its center, one that intensified in rhythmic intervals as if following a countdown that no one could yet decipher. Hidden along the chamber's perimeter were rows of obsidian tablets, smaller and far more intricate than anything found above. Each was etched with star charts mapping the precessional cycles of Earth's axis, but ending abruptly at a date thousands of years in the future. The final star map was unlike the others. It depicted a planetary alignment that has not yet occurred, converging on a single celestial point beyond the orbit of Neptune. Astrophysicists who analyzed the data proposed a chilling possibility. The Ark's builders may have known not just the past and present skies, but an event yet to come, a cosmic marker that could signal another cataclysm. In the chamber's center, encased in a crystalline lattice, researchers found a small metallic sphere no larger than a fist, but its atomic structure defied classification. It emitted no radiation, no heat, and yet interfered with every sensor brought near it. One physicist described it as information condensed into matter, a physical archive encoded on a subatomic scale. The markings on its surface mirrored the genetic code sequences found in the upper vault, as though the Ark's mission was not just to preserve life, but to carry the blueprint of existence itself. And still, the sphere remained locked, resistant to every attempt to open or scan it. When linguists returned to the undeciphered language carved on the sarcophagus, they began to notice disturbing parallels to proto-languages across continents, symbols that echoed early Chinese oracle bone script, Olmec glyphs, even the runes of pre-Norse Europe. The implication was staggering. Whoever inscribed those words may have been the progenitor of global linguistic roots, a forgotten culture whose influence stretched across the planet long before history began. The translation of one recurring phrase deepened the enigma. Those who remember will rebuild. Those who forget will be reset. As the last layer of sediment was cleared from the site's northern wall, excavators broke through into a tunnel sealed with cyclopean stones. Its passage spiraled downward into darkness, eventually opening into a vast subterranean chamber beneath the mountain itself. What awaited them there defied belief. Colossal monolithic pillars arranged in a perfect Fibonacci spiral, each inscribed with accounts of floods, fires, and extinctions spanning hundreds of thousands of years. These were not mythic tales, but records, precise astronomical data linked to each epoch-ending event. The final inscription, however, was left unfinished, its date blank, as if awaiting the next chapter to be written. Satellite imagery soon confirmed what many feared. The Ark's alignment, from its orientation to its carved star maps, pointed directly toward a sector of the sky currently monitored by deep space telescopes. And recently, for the first time in recorded history, a faint object had appeared in that very region, small, distant, and accelerating toward the inner solar system. Officials dismissed it as a harmless comet, but those who had studied the Ark's warnings saw it differently. To them, the vessel was not just a relic of survival, it was a message, a beacon, left for the descendants of a flood-forged world, to prepare for something that returns in cycles older than civilization itself. As the last sealed chamber was prepared to open, its contents still unknown, its inscriptions still untranslated, one final line carved into the stone above the doorway sent a chill through every soul present. We were not the first, and we will not be the last. The question was no longer whether Noah's Ark was real. The question was far more unsettling. Was it truly a divine rescue vessel, or was it something far older, a remnant of a civilization that anticipated the end and left behind a blueprint for humanity's next beginning? And if the cycles recorded in those ancient chambers were true, if the warnings carved into stone and sealed in obsidian were meant for us, then perhaps the greatest discovery wasn't what the Ark contained. Perhaps it was the realization that we are living in the time between resets, the brief window when memory fades and the next cleansing draws near. The Ark stands silent on Mount Ararat, its deepest secrets still locked away, its final chamber still unopened. But its message echoes through the centuries with perfect clarity. This is not the end. This is the beginning after the end.